It was the kind of morning that carried both exhaustion and purpose. The kind of morning only single parents truly understood. A pale sun crawled across the sky, bathing the city in gold as Aidan Clark rushed through the revolving glass doors of a high-end film studio cafe, holding a tiny hand that clung to his own. His daughter, Leela, 6 years old and full of untamed curiosity, trotted beside him in her faded pink sneakers. They weren't supposed to be here, not really, but today was different. Today, Aidan was hoping for a miracle. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and stories that touch the heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness Journal. Every story we share reminds the world that one small act can change a life forever. Aidan wasn't always a man chasing auditions and cafe meetings. 5 years ago, he'd been a stuntman, fearless, confident, unstoppable, until an on-set explosion injured his back and ended his career overnight. His wife, overwhelmed by hospital bills and the sudden loss of fame, had walked out, leaving Aidan alone with a baby girl and a shattered spirit. Since then, every day had been a climb. He drove delivery trucks by night and helped his daughter rehearse lines from old movies by day, because acting was her escape from the gray walls of their tiny apartment. Today, he had come to the studio cafe because there was a rumor one of the city's biggest directors, Marcus Thorne, was here for lunch, scouting fresh faces for his next family film. Aidan knew he didn't stand a chance. He wasn't young, rich, or connected, but he'd printed his headshots anyway. He figured it was better to fail trying than to fail wishing. They found a small table by the window, sunlight reflecting off the steel counters, and ordered a single croissant to share. Aidan carefully tore it in half and handed a piece to Leela, who giggled and whispered, "Daddy, we're in a fancy place." He smiled, masking the ache in his heart. "Yes, sweetheart. Maybe something good will happen today." Just then, a woman's voice floated through the air, gentle yet firm. "Excuse me, that's my seat." Aidan turned. Standing beside him was a woman with chestnut hair swept into a low knot, a silk scarf draped over her shoulders, and eyes that seemed familiar. It took him a second. Then it hit him. It was Isla Renford, the actress who had vanished from the spotlight 3 years ago after a scandal that had rocked every headline. She had once been America's sweetheart until a leaked video of her standing up to a powerful producer had cost her everything. Since then, she'd disappeared. And now, here she was, standing before a single dad in a worn jacket and a little girl clutching a piece of croissant. Aidan blinked, embarrassed. "Oh, I didn't realize. We'll move." But as he stood to leave, Leela tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, I like this seat. It's sunny." Elila's expression softened. She studied them for a moment, then shook her head slightly. "No, it's all right. You can stay." She sat in the next booth instead, pulling down her sunglasses. Yet something about the little girl's laughter seemed to draw her attention again and again. Minutes later, the cafe door opened and a hush fell across the room. A tall, older man with silver hair and a presence that commanded attention entered, Marcus Thorne himself. His tailored suit gleamed, and his entourage followed like shadows. The director surveyed the cafe, clearly looking for someone until his gaze landed, not on Isla, not on the reserved table, but on Aidan and his daughter. "On Mr. Clark," Marcus said, walking straight toward him. The cafe went still. Even Isla's eyes widened. Aidan froze, unsure if he was being mistaken for someone else.
Yes."
Marcus extended his hand. "I remember you. You doubled for me on Blaze Run years ago. I didn't forget your stunt. The one where you caught fire and still finished the take. That kind of commitment stays with a director." Aidan's breath caught. "You remember that?" Marcus smiled. "You bet I do. I was hoping to find you, actually. I'm working on something new. A film about a father and daughter. I need someone who understands what that bond really feels like." Before Aidan could answer, Isla suddenly rose from her booth. Her scarf slipped to the floor. "Marcus," she said quietly, "you're casting for that film?" He turned toward her, surprised. "Isla Renford. I didn't expect." "I read the script," she interrupted softly. "It's beautiful. I wanted to ask if I could audition." The room seemed to hold its breath. Aidan stood awkwardly beside her, feeling wildly out of place. His daughter was still nibbling her croissant, oblivious to the weight of the moment. Marcus studied them both, the fallen actress and the forgotten stuntman. Then, with a curious smile, he said, "Maybe I've found both my leads." From that day on, everything changed. The following weeks felt like a dream Aiden couldn't wake from. He found himself on set again, only this time not behind the camera or hanging from a harness. He was acting. The film was called The Sun Between Us, a story about a struggling single father who repairs broken kites for his daughter after her mother dies. Isla played a kind, hearted teacher who helps them rebuild their lives. At first Aiden was terrified. He'd never acted before. Cameras, lights, and scripts felt like a foreign world. But every time he stumbled, Isla was there, patient and calm, teaching him how to find truth in silence. Between takes, she sat with Leela, teaching her how to read her lines and telling her stories about kindness and bravery. Yet behind Isla's gentle smiles, Aiden saw something else: pain. There were moments she would drift away mid-conversation, lost in thoughts that darkened her eyes. He learned she'd been blacklisted after standing up against harassment in the industry, abandoned by people she once called friends. She'd lost everything: her home, her reputation, her trust. One night after a long shoot, they sat by the lake beside the set. The sun dipped low, painting the sky in lavender hues. Aiden watched Leela chase dragonflies along the shore and said quietly, "You ever wish you could just start over?" Isla nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "Every day. But maybe starting over isn't about forgetting who we were. Maybe it's about forgiving ourselves for the things we couldn't control." Her words stayed with him. Weeks turned into months. The film wrapped, and when The Sun Between Us finally premiered, no one expected what happened next. Audiences wept. Critics called it raw, honest, and the comeback no one saw coming. Aiden became a symbol of perseverance, the single father who rose again, while Isla's name trended worldwide, not as a scandal, but as a survivor who had rebuilt her career with grace. But the most unforgettable moment happened at the film's gala, the very heart of this story's title. It was a bright afternoon, sunlight streaming through the glass dome of the Hilton Grand Ballroom. Tables glistened with silver cutlery, cameras flashed, and every major star in the industry was present. Aiden arrived wearing a simple charcoal suit, his daughter holding his hand, her curls bouncing as she smiled at the cameras. Isla stood beside them, elegant in an ivory gown that shimmered like moonlight. They walked to their assigned table, right in front of the stage, when a sharp voice echoed, "That's my seat." Everyone turned. A man in an expensive tuxedo stood there, face smug and familiar. It was Victor Hale, the billionaire producer who had once destroyed Isla's career. He looked at Aiden and Isla with disdain. "You're sitting in the wrong place." For a second, the old fear flickered in Isla's eyes. But before she could speak, Aiden stepped forward. Calmly, without hesitation, he placed his arm around Isla's shoulders and pulled her close. His voice was steady, protective, unshakable. "No, this is our seat." The room went silent. Cameras clicked. Then, to everyone's shock, Marcus Thorne, the billionaire director himself, rose from the table and said, "He's right, Victor. That's their seat. You've had yours for long enough." Applause broke out. Flashbulbs exploded. Isla's eyes filled with tears, not of fear this time, but of release. Aiden squeezed her hand, his heart pounding. For the first time in years, she smiled without a shadow behind it. Later that night, as the crowd dispersed, Isla turned to Aiden and whispered, "Thank you for standing up for me." He smiled. "You stood up for yourself long before I came along. I just reminded everyone to look." They both laughed softly. Leela ran up and hugged them both, shouting, "Daddy! We're famous now." And maybe she was right. But fame wasn't the gift that mattered. The real gift was something deeper: second chances, kindness, courage, and the belief that no matter how dark life gets, the light always finds a way back in. As the evening faded into golden dusk, Aiden looked at the skyline, and for the first time in years, he wasn't chasing hope. He was living it. If this story touched your heart, if you believe in forgiveness, in courage, in the power of kindness, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Kindness Journal. Every click helps us bring more true to life stories that remind the world compassion can rewrite any ending. Special request: comment below with the words, "Kindness wins," if you believe that every broken story can still find its beautiful ending.